Okay, you need to go and get your ingredients together, and they're in the recipe that's down below me there. The first thing we're going to do is get our dry ingredients together. So what I've got here is 3 cups of flour. In the United States, that's all-purpose flour. In Australia, it is just plain flour, that's all. I've used an organic wheat flour, but you might want to use combinations of different flours yourselves. You also need to get your salt together and your baking powder. So what we're going to do in a mixing bowl is mix together our baking powder and our salt. I'm using a Himalayan crystal salt, and you just need a teaspoon of that. You need 3 cups of your flour, a teaspoon of your baking powder, oh that's a bit too small, and a teaspoon of your salt, whatever sort of salt, best salt that you can imagine. And you just need to mix those up really, really well. Okay, once you've got those mixed up really well, you need to put the wet ingredients in next. I find it's better if you put them together first and combine them. So in another bowl, I will mix the oil. Now it's up to you again, personal preference. I'm using olive oil. Not everybody likes to use it, so whatever vegetable oil, whatever oil that you would like to use with that. So in this recipe, 1/3 cup of oil, and you'll need a cup of warm water. Make sure that it's warm water because that's going to help the dough actually prove. And just whisk it together a little bit. I'm not going to use any Nigella-isms, okay? Now, to this, we're going to mix together. Now, you might have a mix master with a dough hook, and you might want to do that. Otherwise, you can do this by hand. It just takes a little bit longer. So what you do is you're just putting a little bit in at a time. If you've got a mix master, you're doing the same thing with the dough hook. You're just doing it little by little, and I'm sure that you're probably used to that. Just drizzling a little bit, mixing it a little bit. And it just gets, if anyone's made, you know, scones or cookie dough, it's pretty much the same. It starts to, you do look at it and think, is this ever going to work? But I assure you it does in the end. It's like all things with bread making, cookie making, dough making, it all works out in the end. So I just do, I was about to say a slosh at a time, but it is. It's a bit of a slurp at a time, getting it together. And mixing it. And as I said, at this stage you're sort of thinking, no way, it's never going to happen, but it does. It really does. So getting it together. Now I have washed my hands thoroughly before I came into the kitchen. Just get my little guy out of the way. And I do start to get handy at this time. You need to. So scraping all that off, wherever it goes. A little bit of flour goes a long way. So putting your hands in just a little bit of flour so you don't get so sticky. And then you start bringing the dough together like this. Now, as I said, if you've got a mix master with a dough hook, this isn't going to take you so long. It's probably going to take you about 1 or 2 minutes. If you're doing it by hand, it's going to take you a good 10 minutes to get it together. Just keep working at it. You may need to put some more flour in there. You may need to put a touch more warm water. But give it, if you're doing it by hand, give it a good 10 minutes before you make that decision. If you're doing it with a mix master, a good 2 to 3 minutes. But what you're looking for, and it's not coming there at course because we've only just started, but you're looking for a smooth ball. That's what's going to start to happen once we get all this together. So you just keep sort of turning and moving in the bowl until all those dry ingredients are getting there together. So once you've done that, I'm going to leave you there for a second because I think we'll do this in a few parts because it's rather boring watching you do this, isn't it? Once you do that, we'll be ready for the next section.